Welcome to the April 1st, 2024 meeting of the Yarmouth Board of Health. And it's nice to know it is April. Why don't we start with attendance to begin with? Just raise your hand and say that you're here. Eric?
Present.
Mary?
Present.
I'm Hillard. Larry?
Present.
Charlie? Charlie's not. We still have quorum. Are we expecting him or not?
We haven't heard.
Haven't heard. Okay. So it's done with the attendance. Just a reminder, this is a hybrid participation meeting, so that people certainly can come into the town hall here, can Zoom from home or wherever they are, can call in, I believe, and the instructions are actually quite good, and they're on the website, how to connect with us here. So, why don't we work on the agenda? Let's start off with public comment, and this is opportunity for anyone in the public, anyone here, anyone by phone, Zooming, to address the board. And I'm fine if it's something that's not on the agenda. Okay. Eric, you'd agree there's not a lot of activity out there now?
No, sir.
No
Nothing.
hands raised on the,
We have one?
no?
No, no one there, no hands. Okay, let's cross that one off. Let's go to number 2. This is a public hearing. This is for Sea Dog Brew Pub, and they're located at 23 White's Path, South Yarmouth, and this is on for a vote. It has to do with the dog variance for outdoor dining. I understand there's an update on the actual subject and what we're doing with this topic.
There's an individual here to present to you.
Okay,
Please.
fabulous. Just have a seat. Introduce yourself and welcome.
My name is Jeffrey Ingalls. I'm the general manager of Sea Dog Brew Pub. Here today, we had originally planned to do an adoption event at the restaurant with Sandy Paws Rescue using our patio. Since then, we've decided that it's probably best to move it off the patio and into the parking lot area where we'll have a barricade set up so guests can come in and meet with the foster animals and hopefully find a home for the dogs.
Any other details? I mean, the public could be listening, just the
Sure, yeah.
time, the date, and anything else.
April 27th, we're going to have, we'll have them from 2 to 5 outside the front door. Guests can come up and they can pet the pups and meet the foster parents and get to know the animals and really find out their behaviors and if it's a good spot for them, and hopefully they'll find a home.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Is that the 27th or 28th?
the 27th.
27th.
Yes, sir.
Anybody on the board, any questions?
I would just, for the board's point of interest, as you understand with the sanitary code as far as service animals and things of that nature, we thought it would be best at the time prior to this, and we found this out today, there's a change, but the board would have to, only service animals allowed in the dining area, certainly, assistance dogs. So was the reason why you see the variance in front of you. The manager has since come forward to explain that, just to lay aside any concerns or, whether it's the selectmen, the liquor license and the sanitary code for the board, best to separate the two and put an air gap between the dining area and the dogs themselves. So I think it's wonderful that you came forward and just anything more. How many dogs are you expecting to be there?
From what I've heard, anywhere from 9 to 10 animals are going to be there with handlers. Hoping that maybe we get some more. We have a big enough area, I think, barricaded off that we could get some more animals, but, we'll see.
How many did you say?
9 to 10.
And is it,
20?
9 to 10.
Oh, 9 to 10.
Excuse me.
and is it just dogs?
Just dogs, yes.
Okay. And what is the organization that you're partnering with?
Sandy Paws Rescue. They have a bunch of offices in southeast Massachusetts, so we sponsor them. They come into the restaurant. One dog a month. We feature them at the front door, so guests walk in, they get to see the animal the dog, that they're featuring and hope find them home. We've been successful. 90%, I think, of the dogs that we've had so far have been adopted by people that have walked through Sea Dog.
What, just so the board understands of the community, what would be, where are these dogs coming from? Are they formally owned and were given up or were surrendered?
Some that have been surrendered, some that have been captured and taken from out of state and brought up to Massachusetts, but
Rescues, yeah.
they're all rescues, yes.
Okay.
I get their newsletter. It's a great organization. They get
Okay.
tons of dogs, beautiful dogs, and it seems like they really do their due diligence to place them appropriately. I've been on their wait list for a while, so I guess I'm an unfit owner.
April 27th, Sea Dog, there you go.
Yeah, no, I reviewed your application.
Give them a reference,
You
a
didn't
good
give me a
one.
good reference, did you?
Yeah, that's what happened with you. So,
Sounds like a great event.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Hope we see a lot of people.
So there's no action required by the board, information only.
Right, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So what are the times again?
2 to 5 p.m. on April 27th.
really, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Jay, if there's a meeting that comes up where we have absolutely nothing supposed on the agenda or very little, we can look about the regs, restaurants and animals for just to review it formally. I can tell you, the last time we looked at it was, 9 years ago. It was a long time ago. There was a complaint by someone living in town, eating there. And so we had a packed house that night, and so we ought to take a look at it, just because date-wise, it's been a while since we looked at it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That actually does bring up a good point. We see animals now on airlines, we see them in grocery stores, a number of different places. So they have assimilated into areas that we're not used to seeing them in the past. So that would be timely to put a review. I can put that on for another meeting.
The best article I came across on the subject once was someone who brought in a turkey on a leash. This was in Manhattan, went into the deli and ordered a turkey sandwich. It's a true story. So let's move on. Okay. We definitely should move on. Public hearing. This is for Cape Deli Foods, and they're located at 1105 Route 28, South Yarmouth. This is on for a vote, and it looks like we do have people here to present. That's
Bring up another chair.
great. Yeah. Everyone, please. So,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with the BSC Group. With me tonight is the owner of the property, Mr. Ed Walsh, and also Mr. Paul Dean, who is the potential buyer of this property. This is Cape Deli, which is probably more familiar to you all as the Piccadilly Deli, which is across the road from Town Hall here. Been in business since 1981 and has operated as a restaurant all that time. And Mr. Walsh and his family have been involved. So, as I mentioned, the restaurant has been in business since 1981. It has been an 80-seat restaurant all that time until COVID happened and the septic system needed to be replaced. At that time, the seating was set up for 60 seats, and a septic system was installed just a few years ago to cover the septic system. What we're here tonight for is to get permission to allow the 80 seats to be used. They were previously there, and looking for a variance to allow the septic system to remain in the current size that it is without change. As you may know and observe today, Route 28, the sewer has started on Route 28, and Mr. Walsh has actually got a letter from the sewer department discussing the line going from his building to the main sewer trunk line that will be right in Route 28 in front of his building. So what we're looking to do is to bring back the seating that was there, increase it from the previously approved 60 seats a few years ago to the 80 seats that were previously there. The variance that we're looking for is to allow a reduction in the leaching field and to allow a reduction in the septic tank. The variances are listed. We're looking for a 29% reduction in the leaching field and a 23% reduction in the size of the septic tank. The grease trap that is out there meets the previous regulations and also meets the current regulations. When we put in the grease trap, we oversized it, so it's more than adequate to handle the proposed flow on the site. Mr. Walsh takes a very aggressive attitude towards cleaning and maintenance of his septic system. So the grease trap is pumped every 3 months, and the septic system tank is pumped every 4 months, which is more than most people pump their septic tanks. But being in the restaurant business, he understands what's relevant and what's important, and maintaining the septic system is something that is very important. There is also an additional grease trap within the building, and that is pumped on the same schedule as the grease trap that is outside the building. I guess that's pretty much my any information that I have. The biggest thing is that we're looking to just leave this leaching field as it is to allow us to increase the seating capacity, with the understanding that as soon as sewer is available, we would connect immediately. So I'd be glad to answer questions, and the team here would be glad to answer questions you
So
may have.
previously, when the seating was at 80, the septic system had to be replaced. Was it a septic system that was for 80 seating?
The one that was there was, the capacity
Originally?
was 80 seats, yes.
But then it was replaced with a smaller one?
Yes.
Okay.
It was in the middle of COVID and times were uncertain,
Right.
and as a
Money was
result-
uncertain, yep.
Was the original system pre-Title V?
It was a 1981 system, so the original Title V was 78, and the Title V that we're more accustomed to was 1995, but it would have been a Title V system put in 1981.
And was the so I'm not familiar enough with the specifics of the title, but was the newer system, even though it was rated for fewer seats, is the flow that it's rated for greater than that of the previous system? Does that question make sense?
Is it a better
It
system?
does.
Essentially.
I believe that the gallonage back then was the same as the gallonage now that is required.
Okay.
The only thing that was different back then is up until 1995, you could put in a pit which had a much smaller footprint. The current system has to be pretty a rectangular flat area, basically. Before, you could maybe be 8 feet, 10 feet deep and have a pit. Now the maximum height is 2 feet. So as a result, you cover a much larger area.
Okay.
And that's actually something that I didn't mention, is that because of the slope at the back of the property, we've pretty much maximized every inch that was available for the septic system field that is in the back right now, to meet the current regulations of Title V.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could?
Sure.
Is there going to be a change in operation? So you're going from 60 to 80, but internally, as far as food service, is there any change in operation?
When you say change of operation, I mean,
Lunch and dinners, is that what you're doing now?
as you know, I assume you know that we are in the process of selling, and the prospective owner, Mr. Dean, would like to venture out on a 3 or 4 nights a week. I think it's 3, or I'm not sure, 3 or 4 nights a week, to do some light dinners. He had some specifics in mind, and maybe, Paul, you would rather tell him exactly what you might have in mind. He had mentioned that to me as a possibility, and I think that's kind of why we're here now.
Right, I was just trying, what precipitated the changes? Is there going to be, the service going to change a little bit, or the menu going to change in some sort, or the operation?
So our plan.
Sir, just to interrupt, you need to come, introduce yourself and come to the mic a little bit.
My
Thank
name's
you.
Paul Dean, hopefully the new owner of Piccadilly. Our current plan is to operate it as is. We would like to test the market with a few dinner services a night to see what options are available at a later time. But our plan to go in, as far as what's currently being done, is to make no changes.
Okay.
It seems like a good question. I appreciate you bringing it up. So how significant it is if a business wants to have 3 meals a day, in other words, in the sense of waste?
Yeah, I just didn't know on the anticipation.
Yeah.
Kieran is completely right as far as the reduction is within, the allowable reduction as far as the leaching field itself. I just didn't, and that's it's unknown as far as the predictability, as far as what the increase would be. I don't even know that it is a factor. I just want to see what brought us to this, even today? Why are we even discussing this? But
Well, also because you're thinking of going from 60 to 80 seats, correct?
Yes, well, so, the property came up for sale. We were under the assumption it was 80 seats.
Ah.
So we've gone through the whole process, and through the appraisal through the bank, they made note that it was only 60 seats. We were under the assumption that we were buying an 80-seat restaurant. So, then that's when we learned about setbacks on the system that was put in place, town sewer coming down the street. So obviously, we would like to maximize the
Yep.
Frankly, from an economic standpoint,
I can,
we've been there for 42 years, and frankly, our mortgages are paid, and he needs to do things to beef up the business.
I understand. We have this discussion many times at our counter or over the phone. Businesses who are trying to make it to when the sewer comes in, all of this goes away, right? And that's the wonderful, that opens up a number of opportunities. Exactly right. Well, we hope sooner than later on that. So those discussions happen, whether it's the board or at our counter for the Board of Health, to say, how can we get to this point, to help businesses get to exactly what you're trying to do, be viable until the sewer comes. So Kieran does his homework. He's correct in each of these things. The board is well within the variance.
I have another question, though. So you're saying you're not going to increase to 80 until you're connected to the sewer? Or are you going to try to do that before?
We're trying to establish the 80 seats now till we get
Now.
in the sewer, yes. The season is coming, and we'd like to be available, the 80 seats available to us, and I would say that, I actually said something earlier today, if somebody's connected to the sewer in the next 24 months, I'd be surprised, but that would be the bare bones. So we're looking at least 3 seasons, I would expect,
Right, yes.
before we would have the sewer in there.
Yes.
But, if the board were favorable tonight, then a restriction, a condition that says as soon as sewer is available, connect, then I'm sure that Mr. Dean or Mr. Walsh would be more than happy to agree to that.
I just want to make sure you understand what we're addressing. That's all. Just speak up. You have any questions? The same way we have questions. Yeah.
I
Anything.
understand completely, yeah.
Yeah, so the concern would be, for instance, if you had 100 people come for lunch, hopefully you have more than that. And if it was breakfast and dinner, and there's 300 people that day, that's all. So there's more activity, there's more waste, and so on. So that's what we need to decide upon. We don't know what your plan would be for, 3 meals a day, or 1, whatever, or the next owner. If you turn it over in a year, which certainly you're entitled to do that. It's your property. So that's one of the things we're trying to juggle here.
Understand, I mean, you might be able to speak.
If I got one thing and that is that when a restaurant seat is designed, it's designed at a capacity of 35 gallons per day.
How many?
35. That is designed for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay.
So that's what was put in the ground, was designed for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay.
We don't make a reduction if it's going to be just breakfast or if it's going to be lunch or just dinner. So the design by Title V is 35 gallons per day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay. I'm sure you worked at the math. That's helpful. Thank you. So the septic system then is one of the factors that determines the number of seats you can have. What about square footage for a restaurant? In other words, the floor plan is staying the same, it looks like. There'll be additional tables, I guess. How relevant is that? The drawing isn't actually correct, or the way it was done. It's not exactly a scientific looking or
All I can say-
drawing, but that's all I'm putting out. It's not really correct. So the issue is there a limitation on tables, people, square footage? You couldn't have 100 diners with a 6 foot by 6 foot space. So how does that work?
What's unusual about this is that we're not looking to add anything that wasn't previously there. Between 1981 and 2021, there were 80 seats in the restaurant. and they function perfectly fine, and they got their occupancy permit every year from the building department, which goes in and checks to see that the building has the capacity to take those seats, and there is the amount of space required to get in and out and walk around those seats. So in this particular case, it's a little unusual because we had those seats already in the building. A newer one that has been untested would have to go through approval from the building department for the occupancy per square foot in the restaurant.
Yeah, it's something this board knows nothing about. Okay.
And off the top of my head, I can't tell you whether it's 6 square feet per body or 7 square feet per body, but there is a calculation.
Probably if they're standing up and eating, you get more people in. So,
On the actual certificate of inspection, which is produced by the building department, the capacity statement is 80 people. So as far as the building department,
80 tables.
80
no,
people.
80 seats. I'm
80
sorry,
seats.
80 seats, yeah.
Okay.
There's a capacity to have 80 people in
Right.
there eating at any given moment.
Anybody have any questions or further discussion? It's very clear the way you're presenting it, as usual. So really, the question is whether to grant the variance. That's this application, which also is quite clear. It's nice to know, yeah, the septic system is going to be replaced by the sewer system, which is great.
On, on the plan, it does say under design flow, 80 seats at 35 gallons per day.
Yes, the design plan that was submitted 2.5 or 3 years ago said 60 seats, but because we were looking for variance, we wanted to bring the numbers and run the numbers on the design, so you would see exactly what percentage of reduction we were looking for.
Understood.
You want a motion?
Yeah, someone interested in making a motion? That'd be great. Thanks, Mary.
I move that we grant the Town of Yarmouth regulation variance, which is a reduction in the size of the solar reduction system, providing 71% of the requirements from 60 to 80 seats. And when sewer is available, that the restaurant will hook up as soon as possible.
That was really clear. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. Any further discussion? Larry, any questions, anything? I don't. Anybody else? No, let's take a vote then. Let's go for it. All in favor of the motion, just raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. It passes. Good luck with the business, assuming you follow through with it. Okay?
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy retirement.
Well, you're smiling.
I hope nothing changes.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thanks, we'll see you. Good job. Good luck.
Okay, number 4 here on the agenda is a public hearing, and this is for Greenbird Landscaping. What's listed here is 11 Corporation Road, that's in Yarmouth Port. There's a request to store toxic or hazardous materials in amounts greater than those commonly associated with a normal household use as referenced in Yarmouth zoning bylaw, section 406, period 5, period 1, period 1, parentheses, there's a 3. So it looks like there are a few people here to represent the company, and that's great. So what I appreciate is everyone introduce themselves.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Patrick Nickerson from the Law Office of John W. Kenny on behalf of the applicant, Greenbird Landscaping, Inc., being represented by one of its principals to my far right, Rodrigo Epifanio. And then to my immediate right is Brian Wallace. He is our engineer on the matter, working to help us with our designs, specifically tonight to comment on the holding tank, which has been designed in accordance with this proposal.
Okay, it was my understanding, based upon what's in our packet, there's a lot more to be discussed than just a holding tank. Are you aware of that?
Oh, yes, that's correct. I'm just outlining what we expect Mr. Wallace's contributions to be.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Great. Mr. Walsh, do you want to make some kind of presentation here in front of us to tell us a little bit what you're proposing? No, I don't want to. Let's see.
So I can.
You like to,
I
or-
can start.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Carl, I know you're going to be up soon. That's all. You want to sit for a moment? You can.
Okay, I'm all right, thank you.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay. So the applicant before you this evening, like I said, is Greenbird Landscaping, Inc., who proposes to purchase and then develop a parcel of land located at 11 Corporation Road. The proposal would be to construct a 7,000 square foot commercial building, which would be comprised of 6 contractor bays. 5 of those bays would be 1,000 square feet each, and then the 6th bay would be 2,000 square feet. Greenberg Landscaping would intend to occupy bays 5 and 6, the 1,000 square foot bay and a 2,000 square foot bay. And within those bays would be its source or its base of operations, essentially. Greenberg Landscaping is involved in several landscaping matters, specifically hardscape maintenance, irrigation installation, irrigation service, and then in the off-season is also engaged in snow plowing business. So the proposal tonight and the request tonight is to seek the Board of Health's approval or recommendation of our proposed plan, which involves storage in excess of the storage of hazardous materials in excess of those normally associated with household use. Specifically, we're seeking a maximum limit of 5,800 pounds of solid materials. The vast majority of that is the ice melt, which is delivered in separate 50-pound bags to be delivered on pallets and stored indoors only. And then there's, within that figure also is a number of plant-tone fertilizer, 300 pounds of that to be used for new plantings only. Again, these are individually bagged materials stored inside. And then the 90 gallons of hazardous materials is essentially, it's unleaded gasoline, some small engine oil fluid, windshield washer fluid, materials that we've identified in our narrative, but those commonly associated with what you would imagine a landscaping company would need in order to engage in its day-to-day operations. I'm happy to discuss proposed methods of storage, delivery, et cetera, in further detail. But I would add also, in addition to the landscaping services, the storage of materials, we're seeking permission to wash vehicles on site and indoors. We're also seeking permission to service the vehicles on a very limited basis. And specifically, we're proposing changing of brakes, topping off fluids as needed, not replacing fluids. A third-party company would come to change the motor vehicle oils as needed, removing those oils off-site. So we'd be proposing to engage the services of a third-party entity to change motor vehicle oil, dispose of the motor vehicle oil off-site.
Okay. Just so the public who's listening are aware of sort of the essence of this is the quantities of toxic materials, normal quantities being 90 gallons, rather 10 gallons of toxic fluids. You're asking for 90, and I think it's 5 pounds of dry toxic materials, and we're talking about 5,600 pounds of it. And that's sitting over our drinking water. So
Yes.
that's why we're all here tonight.
Exactly.
Okay? What's great is we have Carl on, okay, who's put together a very detailed summary of what we're discussing tonight, considering. Carl, it's yours.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to say I agree with everything Mr. Nickerson just recited. That's my understanding as well. Beyond that, I just want to mention that Greenbird Landscaping was established in 2010, so it's not a new business. It will be new to Yarmouth. They're presently located in Harwich. And the founders are still the owners, Mr. Rodrigo Epifano and his wife, Ms. Shelter Cavallo. They've been the owners throughout. And we've had a lot of good communication the last few months, all of the parties involved, and also Mr. Ed Pesci, the professional engineer, who Mr. Wallace is with that company who did the designing. I did visit the Greenbird's present location in Harwich to see what their operation looked like now. And it looks exactly like what they propose to do here. The one thing that's different is they don't have the same regulation in Harwich, so my inspection found the business to be in very good order. They just didn't have the secondary containment, and I'd be very surprised if they did have it, because that's not a requirement in Harwich. But they have a plan for meeting our regulation. Regarding the solid materials they plan to store, there's 3 categories. There's ice melt, there's organic fertilizer, and there's polymeric sand. None of those 3 materials would be used on site, only stored on site. And they'd all be stored inside. They'd be moved into the building immediately. So the ice melt is for taking to residences that they do snowplow removing for and distribute that on site. The polymeric sand is an anchor. It's a binding agent for masonry. And the fertilizer is a small use and a fairly small quantity because it's just for startup plantings. They don't do large-scale fertilization. They have a contractor that does that for them. And there would also be no pesticide on site because they have a contractor that does pesticide application. So that's the proposal for solid materials. And as Mr. Nickerson said, the liquid hazardous materials would be used on site in the repair and maintenance of vehicles, mostly by the employees for the small lawn equipment, the small landscaping equipment, and then by the third-party vendor for oil changes on the larger vehicles. And then beyond that, the office site would include office work indoors, storage of hard goods, hand tools, and powered equipment. So that's everything I have. And then, as you mentioned, the board can vote whether or not they want to recommend this proposal to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is the next stop in the procedural track for this project.
And so the additional units will be rented out, you hope? Okay.
That's right, and any prospective tenants would need, to the extent they need relief, would be before you and then before the
Right.
Zoning Board of Appeals, before any individual certificate of occupancy gets issued. So because we're the only known tenants at this time, seeking to purchase the land, develop it into a building, and then occupy it, we're before you tonight seeking your endorsement of our plan to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
And can you tell us a little bit about the septic system that's being proposed?
Yeah, so as far as the septic system goes, I believe for now the plan is just for a standard Title V system that has been sized for the entire building itself. I don't believe final plans have
Building meeting all bays.
all the bays, all
Yes.
5 bays there, or all 6 bays. So I don't believe final plans have been, developed and submitted to the health department yet for that at this point in permitting. But that would be the plan. It's just your standard Title V septic system for the actual building sewer.
Okay, so we're not going to be addressing anything about the septic system tonight, is that correct?
I don't believe so.
Barry, do you have anything on?
No.
On specifically that?
No, I do not, no.
So we're really only talking about toxic materials that are being proposed, correct? Not the septic system.
And the septic system would be only for bathrooms, right? That might be in each of the units.
That's correct, right.
I mean, one of the thoughts I had, and we don't have to go any further than my mentioning it, is without knowing who the tenants would be, how do you judge what a septic system should look like or the size of it? If you have, including yours, if you have crews coming and going, checking in, leaving in 2 hours, you have, 10 people coming in on the vans, leaving, and so on. So usage is open-ended a little bit. Yes, it's limited to 1 bathroom, but we don't usually make judgments based upon number of bathrooms. For residential, we don't. So sort of, I hadn't really thought about it, is question is how many people would be there? You know, those kind of business, your kind of business, or whoever the tenants would be. It could be a significant number of people coming there. That's all. Something we may need to discuss, and I assume when you come in front of the board about the septic system. Do I have it right?
That is correct. That will be sized, accordingly. However, what you have in front of you right now is for the toxic materials.
Okay,
Only.
fine. Okay. Carl, I'm not sure if I interrupt you or not.
No, not at all. I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. So board members, let's see if we can discuss this a little further. I have a question. Okay, so there's a holding tank. Now, the holding tank, that's from two drains that you're proposing from those two bays. Am I correct? So we're only talking about the holding tank for those two bays that will be for this business, or do I have it wrong?
The holding tank is the holding tank is for all the bays of the building. So on your floor plans, each floor plan has a drain contemplated on the plan.
Right,
There are no present tenants at this time.
sure.
But the size of the tank,
Yeah.
Ryan could speak to that tank in more detail. If you'd like to hear more specifications about the tank and its features, Ryan's the best person to address the board in that manner.
Yeah, so if I may, so like Patrick had mentioned, each unit would have a floor drain. And those would all be connected via plumbing to this one holding tank. The holding tank itself, based on, our anticipated maximum daily flow is 50 to 100 gallons per day. The regulating, 314 CMR requires 500% of that estimated flow be provided in the tank, and we're providing a 2,000 gallon tank. So that is 4 times what the regulation requires, just to be able to accommodate, any future uses of these other bays.
Okay.
And it's moving.
Carl, how do we make a decision in the future, or will this be come in front of the board? In other words, other businesses come in, we don't know what kind of business or what kind of flow they're gonna have. Are they gonna be washing the vehicles all day long, or whatever? So how is that handled? The fact that it's sort of open-ended and the amount of liquid waste would go into those drains. The tank's gonna get pumped at some point, hopefully. So how do we judge that for what kind of, one business may be just a bunch of desks in it, and the other may be a busy detailing company for cars,
So we'll have to judge that as other use and occupancy applications arrive. So for example, right now, and of course that's a great point you make, it's something I thought about too, all of the bays contribute to the same tank.
Yeah.
Now, vehicle washing is not typically allowed in this district.
Right.
The holding tank is there for another reason, and the normal flow it would receive would either be if someone had an accident, if their fuel tank leaked or something, or snow melt water, rainwater, so it would be very little normal flow. So now Greenbird will be contributing wash water to the tank, and it will fill up at a certain rate depending upon the frequency and intensity of their washing. When the new businesses go in, we'll have to see if they propose to contribute any additional flow and evaluate it at that time. So if another business goes in and proposes to wash vehicles as well, they'll have to appear before the board. And an engineer will have to evaluate whether or not that holding tank can accommodate more washing, receive more wash water, because that holding tank could fill up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think of any other businesses that we've granted a variance for washing the vehicles.
I can think of businesses where you've granted variances for washing vehicles, but as you mentioned, not when there were other potential tenants contributing water to that same holding tank.
Yeah.
So I did mention to the parties involved that they won't have control over those other bays. So for example, if someone pulls their trucks in during a snowstorm and has a lot of snowmelt turned to water, that might fill up that tank a lot faster, and Greenbird Landscaping would be responsible as building owner for keeping that pumped. And so they do understand that, but future applications for use in those other 4 bays would have to be evaluated, yes.
I mean, these trucks are dirty trucks, right? I mean, for the kind of work they're doing. So, winter, yes, it could be salt, but all season, it's really dealing with dirt, and so cleaning is significant.
Yeah, they could fill up pretty quickly, and that's why it's important that the state requires, because this tank was designed in accordance with state regulation. It has a 75% high-level alarm. So that alarm will sound, and also there's a visual indicator when it gets to 75%. So that buys them a little time to call their pumping contractor, but before it's completely full. So once that alarm sounds or is indicated, they know they need to put a call in right away to have a response before it, and it would back up into the bay first. So that's kind of the safeguard that gives them a little bit of a buffer in terms of time to have that serviced.
Yeah, I
have the
know,
pumping
that was
done.
quite clear. And here, my concern was, what happens, a sound or a light's not going to be noticed if nobody's there. If there's a 3-day weekend or off-season.
Right.
No one may need to go in for a week or two. Let's assuming there's no landscaping going on. There's no snow or ice. So the last snowstorm, things got washed or whatever. So who will know that the light's on or that there's a sound in the buildings? So it's something to keep in mind. I don't think it's being picked up remotely, that someone will know they have a problem.
Yes. No, it's my understanding it's not picked up remotely.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Epifano will be on site regularly because it's his business. When he's not present, there shouldn't be much of any contribution to the tank, and unless there was an accidental release of, if there was a vehicle parked in the bay and,
Right.
perhaps a fuel tank released. But what'll have to be worked out, it's a great point, is as other tenants occupy the space, if they're filling the tank, well, Mr. Epifano is not present, right? There'll have to be some type of procedure put in place that a tenant could notify him, or perhaps that a tenant would be, deputized, for lack of a better word, to contact the pumping company on their own.
How would
So
someone-
as more
I'm sorry.
tenants move in, we'll have to reexamine this.
Yeah, I mean, someone who has bay number 2, they're not going to know the light's on, right? I mean, it's not going to be in their bay.
Right. Not unless they're, counseled ahead of time to look for it. So it's a great point. As future tenants take occupancy, this will have to be evaluated. Something will have to be put in place.
Yeah, I can go back to the detailing of vehicles again. If they're working at night, they're on their own there a little bit. So that's of concern to me.
I see.
I'm doing all the talking.
Could I just ask?
Yeah,
In your
go
Howard, if I could, at the Howard location, what is the frequency of washing of vehicles? Is that done each day, or can you give any predictability of what that might look like?
In Harwich, good evening, everyone. So in Harwich, we do probably every 10 days or every 2 weeks that we wash the vehicles. Like these days when we have all this rain. So when we go to dump the vehicle, we get all muddy and all our trucks are black. So, and we try to keep it decent clean.
Yeah.
So every 10 days or every 2 weeks, a calling. So that's what we typically clean up our vehicle.
Yeah. Just trying to give the board some information so they have some idea on the volume of what that washing, like you've just heard, typically vehicle washing is not allowed. Just give some idea so they have more information as best they can.
Sure, I understand. And one of the points that Mr. Larson mentioned to our concern, it was the holding tank. It was not going to be enough. And as we know that it was at the beginning, that was not to wash the vehicle on site, and for us, as to running the business and moving the trucks off site to get the wash, that is very costly for the business. So, and that's why we discussed with the engineer to update the septic, not the septic, I'm sorry, the holding tank, and have the control panel so that we watch what would be, what stage or what level the tanks are. So, and the next thing is, as you mentioned about the future tenants, for us as a landscaper, parking is a big issue, and forever the person that we're gonna lease the other units, we're gonna be watching that very closely, because we don't want to have another business that will have some extra vehicles, to over parking. So, and also to do the co-washing, to washing the vehicles on site. So that'll be something that we can formally have in our lease. So, and they definitely need to get their certificate with you guys before they sign a lease with us. So I'm gonna be the one that is gonna be day in and out to check not just on the business, but to the building. So we're gonna be manage the building, and we want to make sure everything is in a good condition. There was another. You have any comments, Patrick?
So my counsel to Rodrigo has been, when you're seeking future tenants, know that these are going to be businesses with smaller amounts of employees than larger, because there is a parking limitation in effect. We're proposing a total of 14 parking spaces for the whole building. Under the ordinance, 1 space is required for every 2 employees. So if, to the extent this board is concerned about large amounts of people, large amounts of vehicles, large amounts of wastewater for the septic or wastewater for the holding tank, the parking ordinance is going to restrict which businesses can come in and lease these spaces, because we're not going to be in a position where a business is seeking to lease a space that's otherwise going to create a parking issue. So, I think the ideal tenants for bays 1 through 4 are likely to be 1 to 2 employees, type of contractor who's seeking to store their materials, whether it's a plumber or an electrician or another tradesman who's conducting most of their activities on site, much like the applicant, and is simply seeking a base of operations to store equipment, materials, et cetera, with not large amounts of use. But I agree, to the extent future businesses are also seeking to wash vehicles, that's something that would have to be taken into consideration from this board, knowing that if it does choose to accept this proposal, that there already is washing activities on site, and there's a 2,000-gallon tank already in the ground. So we've tried to size the tank appropriately for our use, and adding much more volume for other businesses to the extent they are seeking to wash vehicles also, but that's going to have to be taken up on a case-by-case basis at a later date. This is going to be alarmed. It's going to go off at 75% capacity, which is 1,500 gallons. To the extent there's going to be a 500-gallon release, an excess of 500-gallon release where someone's not there or present, I think it's not possible. There's the vehicles in the bays aren't going to be able to store that amount. If there were a spill while no one was there, there's sufficient volume to handle it.
Okay, I mean, we've discussed washing on that area, mostly dealing with boats up there. As for parking, of course, there's the issue of there's property that other lots that could be used for parking. I mean, if someone wanted to rent out spots, it's wide open up there. There's plenty of space. Not on this particular lot, but elsewhere up there, there would be opportunity to park elsewhere. I'm sure someone would be happy to rent spaces out. if I have the lot correct, on the right, well, actually, there are a few spots where there would be room. I'm just mentioning that. Instead of making the left when you come up there, you went right, not to Corporation, to,
Enterprise?
yes.
Perhaps, yeah.
If you go down there, there's a lot of space. So I'm just bringing that point up.
Just point of fact, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
there is washing permitted at 17 Corporation Road. That's the preformed concrete business. But to Mr. Lawson's point, that business occupies all the bays for that building. It's not,
This is the first on the left, right, on the corner there.
yes,
Right.
with the outdoor storage.
Before you make the turn onto Corporation, sort of, it's the one on the left that does that work? Or is it the one that's passed on the right on this lot?
Yeah, it's past the right.
Okay,
Yeah, just past his lot on the right.
sure.
Yes.
The map here, if you,
Yeah, no, just, because
You're thinking of his original facility that was the first one on the left.
Yeah,
He moved
okay.
diagonally across the street, yes.
know that, okay.
So there is a history of it being allowed with appropriate safeguards in place. We feel we've met those with the state design that we're proposing, but we do agree that future tenants, to the extent they're seeking similar relief, they have a strike against them already, because there's already, I mean, ostensibly, the tank's not going to be increased in size simply to accommodate a single tenant.
Sure.
And there's already a use in process, so.
Yeah.
If that limits a future tenant, I guess that's what we're left with.
Carl, as for their, some kind of remote, I know when someone is away and they're at their home, their generator goes on, they can be notified that the generator's on, or if the heat in their home is down, there are systems where you can just have it sent to your phone, I got a problem at home. So, does this exist? So, owner would know they have a problem with the tank?
I'm not aware. I mean, perhaps that could be explored with Mr. Epifano and with his engineer as to whether a remote notification system exists. It's a great idea. It's an interesting idea, but I'm not aware of that as it relates to holding tanks. I am aware of that as it relates to fuel tanks.
In what way? What happens with that?
There's equipment, for example, at fuel stations where if a tank leaks,
Yes.
it's going to send an alert to an on-duty individual or company.
It's only if there's a leak, that's how that would work?
Like if a fuel tank leaked, a gasoline
Right.
or a diesel tank leaked. Something I'd have to investigate,
the
but
signal could
perhaps the
perhaps be-
technology exists to apply that to industrial wash water holding tank.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may say something.
Yeah, anything.
The alarm systems on the holding tank, they're usually mounted on the outside of the building. And it's a very loud, rah, rah, rah. So it's purposely loud to notify somebody to say, hey, there's an issue here. They go look at it and they'll see, and there's a phone number right on it to who to call, to contact. So there, besides being visual and audio, there's the alarm is on the outside, and then the inside there'll be lights, and on the outside there's lights. They're very noticeable from what I've seen in my past.
It would only be the houses on the other side of that nice gate that's there at the end of the street, right? With the very well-manicured houses there. That's probably who would hear it.
But they're designed to be heard, so they're not muffled or hidden or anything. For the fact that, like in a normal Title V system at a home, somebody goes away for the weekend or goes to south for it's loud enough to be heard by the neighbors. That's what they're designed for, the alarm system. They're noticeable, so.
I didn't follow you. At home,
If they're, like you're saying, if they're away for a little bit.
at someone's
somebody
business or at home, residential?
Like if, when they're designed for home use.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for the holding tank. The alarm systems are the same. They're loud, they're audio and visually accessibly heard, so.
Okay, wasn't aware of that, okay. I haven't heard any in my neighborhood, okay.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Can you share with us the main reason why you're moving the business?
Oh,
You
definitely.
don't have to, but
Yeah, well, it's been in business for 13, 14 years.
Right.
So, and we've been paying rent all this time. So by this time, we should be paying already half of one of those units. So, and as we get older, so I'm trying to plan and have a comfortable retirement with
Sure.
my family and growing up my kids. So that's one thing, it's to invest on the property. And the other reason is logistics for us. It's more convenient to serve our clients. That we serve a lot of people in Bostonville and Sandwich. That's where most of our clients are. So, and driving 40 minutes, 45 minutes every day to Howard, so that also bring the cost down for the operations. So
Okay.
that's definitely another reason.
yeah, those sound like good ones. Carl, anything any more details you can share with us about containment? I mean, obviously for the materials the toxic materials, anything else we need to consider?
He proposes, Mr. Epifano proposes 90 gallons, as you mentioned earlier, which isn't a large amount as compared with what other businesses store. So it's not that hard to contain. So that's to be determined, but we've already reviewed, for example, spill control pallets, which are thick plastic sumps designed for the purpose. So he may place some of those on the bay floor. They're available in many different sizes, many different sump capacities. So that's a likely product he'll purchase. It's pretty easy to do because it allows him to purchase an aftermarket product that can be moved anywhere in the bay. Versus if he was to build a masonry containment area, that's stationary all the time.
Right.
And if he had larger quantities, he'd probably have to consider a masonry area. But his quantities are pretty small, so his containers are fairly small. You know, most are under 5 gallons. So we've discussed this, and he'll probably go with an aftermarket product like the spill control pallets.
Okay.
And then he has a spill kit already, so he'll just be moving the spill kit from Harwich to Yarmouth Port. And he has a spill plan, which was included in your packets, and we worked on that together. We provided him with a template, and then he made revisions to make it specific to his new location. So the spill plan and posting of the spill plan has been worked out.
Do you intend to be on site to accept deliveries of materials such as the salt for snow removal?
Absolutely. So typically I'm in site until about 10 a.m. and my wife, she will get in about 9:30 and she stays until 2:30 to 4:45. That's our operation right now, okay? But definitely will be someone on the building to receive any material or anything. When they delivery, usually they have one of those mole, the lifts that unload the pallets and bring it inside. Or otherwise, we had a machine, where we had a skid steer, a bobcat, on site that we unload and move the pallets inside of the units.
But are you able to be in communication with the delivery service so that you can ensure you are there
Yes,
to accept?
It's
so that
always scheduled
Yeah.
ahead of time.
that way it's not sitting out
Not sitting
in the rain.
It's mentioning, the letter here to you, Carl, about the design of the holding tank, and it's designed for non-hazardous industrial wastewater.
Yes.
So that is only referring to agents that are being used to clean the vehicles?
Yes, so that would be, for example, snow or meltwater off of the vehicles, soap and water, dirty soap and water from washing the vehicles. So the non-hazardous designation means that it's not flammable, reactive, or corrosive. It does not mean it's non-toxic. So it's a lower level of concern than if it was a petroleum product or something to that effect.
Right, that's kind of what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Those are two different things. When you see non-hazardous, it sounds like it's water, just going down by itself. Okay, so there is toxicity involved of what's going
Yes.
down. Because certainly a lot of products that are used to clean vehicles are. It said biodegradable here for one of them, but there's surfactants, there are different chemicals that are in what we wash cars with. I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
So that water is then removed by, a typical pumping hauler who removes wastewater. If they had a leak, if a vehicle, and it's probably very unlikely, but if a vehicle fuel tank leaked and the fuel drained to the holding tank, then it's hazardous waste. And then they're calling a hazardous waste hauler to remove of it. So then it's a different level of material and removal, but that's not what's intended.
For sure.
Yes.
Carl, you're recommending that the owners submit an annual report
Yes.
that includes about any spills or leaks and a summary of the water usage. So do you get that report and review it? Are you getting reports like that now?
I am now. I am getting reports for other businesses that have these types of systems in town. And the way it usually, some firms, some companies will hire an engineer to do all of it for them. And some of them will just, do their own tabulation on wastewater, provide their own wash water removal invoices, and then have the engineer submit his or her report regarding the test, regarding the competency of the wash water system.
But that doesn't have to be done annually, that's just done
That's done annually as well.
done annually as
Yes.
well? Okay. And so if you see any red flags, then you follow up.
Yes.
How often has that happened, that you've had to say, ooh, that doesn't look like it should be?
In terms of a system actually leaking to the environment, I only have had that occur once during my time here. And that was in 2 different locations within the same system. And luckily, it didn't get very far, so they isolated the system, and they had to actually jackhammer up concrete and asphalt and make repairs and assess the soils that were impacted. And a licensed site professional evaluated the soils, and fortunately, they didn't have to excavate very far to get to clean soil, and then repairs were made. And then the system was retested as competent, and a new report issued. That's only happened one time in my experience.
Probably a pretty costly repair.
Yes. I imagine it was.
Eric, Larry? Any thoughts?
Is it reasonable, I know it's not as much of an issue now where there's only one occupant. Is it reasonable to ask Rodrigo to post an emergency number? I mean, you had some concerns about somebody responding to an alarm. And as Barry was saying, that alarm's very audible. But would it be reasonable to post an emergency number where the location of the alarm to notify somebody that in fact there was an issue? I don't think there would be an issue with one occupant, but that could be an issue as this building increases with occupancy.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to vote for this, if we did, that certainly could be included in the requirements from.
If that's a real concern, which I could see.
It's a very good idea, I mean, for sure. Otherwise, yeah, in the middle of the night, people are not gonna know why this sound's going off, for sure, or what to do. I'm struggling with it. I don't know if anyone else is, only in just the quantities of materials, and I guess also the washing of the vehicles, you know, it being an isolated area and sitting over the aquifer. So that's sort of what I'm struggling with. The amounts of toxic materials are quite large.
The solids, as opposed to the liquids, because the liquids are not, okay, the solid materials are all separately bagged.
Yep.
Stored indoors. Most of it's ice melt. There's 300 pounds of fertilizer.
Yeah.
And 90 gallons to be handled with the secondary containment. As far as the washing is concerned, and the concern with future tenants, Ms. Craig brought up an excellent point regarding the record-keeping requirements of amounts of wastewater pumped and amounts of water used, and that really could be used to establish a track record to assist you in your analysis with any future tenants. Certainly, the relief or the recommendation from this board with respect to this tenant isn't going to be binding on any other future tenants who seek to occupy these bays. It's going to have to be taken up on a case-by-case basis, and certainly Carl would have records available to assist this board in its decision regarding any future request for indoor car washing services. And don't forget, one of the operations we're proposing is the important snow plowing and icing that takes place in the winter months and keeps our roads safe for us to travel on. And rather than leave those vehicles outside, subject to rain and snow and ice, those are proposed to be stored indoors. And then so they can be washed in stores and indoors so that the road salt and other things can be collected in the tanks and then pumped accordingly. So I think actually there's a benefit to washing the vehicles indoors on site as we're proposing compared to the alternative, which would be to park the vehicles outside, leaving them subject to the snow and the rain, and then of course you'd have infiltration into your ground. So the quantities of materials, they're in excess of those normally associated with household use, certainly, but the bulk of them is a single item of sodium chloride, bagged, delivered indoors on pallets, similar to the ones you'd see at a Home Depot or a Aubuchon, stored indoors. You pick up a bag, put it in the truck to distribute as needed. The 90 gallons are going to be adequately contained with the movable plastic decking that will serve as secondary containment in the event of a spill of a 5-gallon container or less. It's going to be held in the secondary containment. For some reason that's not sufficient, you still have the holding tank as a backup to your backup. On the whole, we've been working with Carl since January. We've revised the plans dutifully and have cooperated with Carl. He's seen the Harwich site and is impressed with the current location and operations. And on the whole, we think we've adequately safeguarded and addressed the risks of spills or other issues that could arise, with the caveat being, yes, future applicants, future tenants be subject to the same requirements that we are, perhaps even more so if you approve or recommend the proposed use.
What is the timeline for the building to be constructed if it's approved?
Our goal is to finalize the purchase in the next couple months, and as soon as that finalized, so we submit application to build.
So we're scheduled presently to present before the Zoning Board of Appeals on April 25th, subject to your approval, of course. And then from there, depending on what happens, we could be filing a recorded decision in, I'm not sure, 30, 60 days from there. The appeal period would need to run, we need to draft the decision, get it on record, then be in a position to close. So this is all pre-purchase due diligence, but very serious about the proposal. We very seriously have taken into consideration all the risks involved, and we feel that we feel that it deserves your recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals for its final consideration.
So the building will be started sometime after the land purchase is finalized, if everything is approved.
If everything's approved, but we're
How
looking.
long is the building going to take to go up?
We schedule, depends where we're gonna be starting, but if we able to start during the summer, so we able to have the building up by the fall, have all the structures up by the fall, and then all the indoor details, plumbing, heating and stuff, that will get it done over the winter. So hopefully by next spring, so we starting to operate in there.
In the meantime, you'll still be in Harwich?
We still be in Harwich.
Carl, I have a question for you. If you go into Home Depot, and we all have, and you go down the aisles and you see their bags of sand, their ones of cement, and the powder's coming out, or the sand's coming out. It's the ones you don't take home. And the stuff is on the floor. So what should happen, because the delivered pallets, a lot of them on, they're dropped. You know, in nurseries, you see it all the time, stuff's outside, but it's not the fault of this business. It could be the product, how it was bagged, whoever's bringing it to this business, it was nicked on them, putting on the pallets or whatever. What should this company be doing when they have the solid toxic material that's leaking out of bags?
Moving it inside immediately is the first thing, and I think the good policy that's in place is, as Rodrigo mentioned, the deliveries of the dry materials are scheduled. So he's prepared for the arrival. So the thing to do would be to move it inside immediately, which he has already mentioned he would do, and then to stop the leak. Put some heavy-duty tape on it, and I imagine that's what he'd want to do anyway, because it's valuable material, and you certainly don't want to lose it. So.
So how's it cleaned up? The palmaric sand or whatever is on the floor. How's that cleaned up?
Well, the first thing is to protect the worker. I don't know how much of an inhalation hazard it is. I mean, I do, because I read the safety data sheet, and it's supposedly minor, but the worker should protect himself, herself, with whatever the safety data sheet recommends, mask, gloves. And then it's usually swept up. It's usually swept up and containerized. So they would sweep it with a broom, to get it off of the asphalt or the concrete. And then reuse it if it's not contaminated. For example, if other dirt isn't mixed in, I imagine they would want to reuse it, but I don't want to speak for Mr. Epifano. Yeah, but that's typically what I see when it's happened other places. And I've never seen a large release, but I have seen, as you mentioned, nicked bags and so forth. And again, it's important that they be moved inside right away, because you don't want something like that to get rained on, as Eric mentioned earlier. Once a dry material is rained on, it can leach away, and some materials are more toxic than others.
Sure.
And can I add something?
Oh, absolutely.
What Carl just said, in another discussion with him, and as we move into Yarmouth, I know it's different ways to do business in the district that we're gonna be in. So, and I asked him for some alternatives. How can I train our team? How I can train our employees to deal with any of the spills of any kind? So. And definitely, that is something that we're looking to have on the books of our business, so that they do as part of the safety training, so that we have the spill plan present to them, so they know what to do, and in case that happens. So I know all your concerns, and also my concern.
Sure.
I live in Barnstable, and there's a time where you guys had an issue with the water, so that it was water pumped out from Yarmouth. So,
right.
And we want to protect that as well. And the other thing is regarding to the tank, in our spill plan, we already had to contact a company it's Global Environment, if I don't miss the name. So that it's, and we asked for the report with the procedures in case we had an emergency and so on and so forth. So they, as they schedule to be less than 24 hours after the call to pump it out. If it's a, you know, if it's something that it's really overflowing, so they can come as, you know, as an emergency call, so, and they'll come right away. So we have already contacted the companies. We know the steps, what it's gonna be, so we already have that plan out ahead in case something happens.
Just in terms of, too, the material being handled for a spill, if there's a nicked bag or something like
Yeah.
like you might see in Home Depot. I mean, this is sodium chloride, it's commonly spread over driveways. It's not, it's
Oh, absolutely. I was thinking some of the other toxic materials more than that. I guess the sand would be one. You know, it's got silica in it. That's all. I was thinking more, but you're absolutely right with the salt, for sure. You know, the biggest concern people around here have is the pans of their car underneath with the salt. That's the biggest priority.
and just remember, the sand's 300 bags, so it's 6 50-pound bags. You just carry those in. It's the pallets of the sodium chloride.
Yep, yeah.
That's the large quantity.
Yeah, this is the 300, you said? So you
6 50-pound bags.
So if you have a physical therapist on staff, that's all, that'll work out fine.
Not that you'd carry them at once,
Fair enough.
unless Rodrigo wants to show off or something, but no.
No, he doesn't have his short sleeve shirt on tonight, so we don't see anything.
I think if we were to grant this, we consider including the recommendations as requirements.
You want to brave it, or with Mary as a
Mary's
coach?
pretty good,
As
but
a coach.
she can help
No,
me.
Word for word. You want to? No, that would be good practice. I don't mean to put you on
Sure.
the spot, but Mary can dictate seriously, and you'll get credit for making
And
the
I
motion.
think Larry had a good
Point.
suggestion, but I didn't get it in my notes. What was your,
That the alarm has the emergency contact information, telephone numbers,
and would that be for the
the alarm system.
company that pumps it?
No, well, I would think it would be to the owner.
It would be the owner
Yeah.
typically, or his agent, or, yeah.
For this, they have already said that they can provide this, so just say it must be provided, and that these requirements are met. This is part of the recommendations,
Sure.
and they have already addressed that in a letter from their engineer, that it can be done.
Okay.
So they're just saying it must be done.
And how am I referencing that?
Just saying that you know, they've said in this letter that it can be done,
Oh, okay.
and we're just saying that it will be done and supplied to us. To Carl,
Okay.
okay?
Go sentence by sentence, and I mean, this is difficult, and so it's just practice. And Mary happens to be great at it, but sentence by sentence, that's all. We're all trying to get better at all these things.
Sure. I'm struggling to see what I'm referencing here.
This matches.
Right,
this
right.
Exactly.
But-
Just one of the recommendations. I'm just saying, they've already acknowledged that they can do that, so we're just saying, you know, it is part of what we're making a requirement. What is a requirement? Just do it, don't worry about
You
it. Yeah.
drop it, you can have Mary do it.
Sure,
That-
no,
that's
so-
fine. I mean that,
You can do it, just
So I'd like to move that we request,
require.
move that, excuse me, we grant the request to store toxic materials in amounts greater than those commonly associated with normal household use at 11 Corporation Road to include or to require the recommendations set forth. And do I have to reference those? Include
To include them as written in what, that's all.
right, as written where? What am I referencing, though?
It would be in Carl's document.
Carl's document, yeah. Carl's memo, right.
So let's try this again. I move that we approve the request to store toxic materials in amounts greater than those commonly associated with normal household use at 11 Corporation Road, requiring the recommendations set forth by
Carl Lawson.
Carl Lawson's memo, and also include that a phone number for the landlord be included at the alarm station of the building.
Barry, how's that, all right?
Sounds good.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah, great, really good. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Larry beat you on that one. Okay, any other for discussion? Good, none, okay. Let's vote, okay. In favor, just raise your hand and say aye.
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 Well, unanimous. That's it, passes, motion passes. Stay in touch with us, mainly with Carl, okay? There are a lot of details. Hopefully you understand our concerns. Some of this is new for us. We're responsible for the quality of the water we're drinking, okay? It's a burden that we have. We signed up for it, and it's our responsibility. We don't take it lightly. So if you have questions, call, okay? All right?
I appreciate all the board members, but I'd like to thank Mr. Carl. He's been so helpful, and he guided me through all this information. Some of the stuff that we are not aware, as he's mentioned, so we're in Howard. So a lot of this stuff, it's new, but he guided me through and make sure that I understood where we step in it. So, and I follow his concern, and we make sure that we will do our best to, not just to take care of the facility, but to take care of the Walker Fire Protection Area.
Good luck with it.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Yarmouth. I hope you get the ZBA approval.
Thank you.
Hopefully it stops raining one of these days for you.
Hopefully they get snow in the
That
winter.
was today. I think tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Not so good. Okay, let's go to number 5. Let's move it, pick up the pace here a little bit. This is a discussion, number 5, on tobacco control program. This is about compliance checks and the tobacco control program in general. Jay, why don't you take this part over?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Bob Collette is, if we could let him into the, Bob, can you hear us? Bob, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm no longer muted.
There you go. Bob Collette sent me an email or communication probably a week and a half ago, just explaining about some of the compliance checks that have been done recently, one in December, one in March. I thought it had been some time since the board had heard from program director, so I asked Bob to come in and talk to you a little bit about the youth compliance checks that are going on and report actually the good news that has happened in Yarmouth. Bob, do you want to present?
Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Jay. Yes, hello, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Pleasure to see you all again. Jay had asked me a couple weeks ago how things were going this year with compliance checks in Yarmouth. And I'm happy to report that we did a complete round of checks in December on the 17th with an 18-year-old male, and we were not able to procure any illegal sales. We used the same young man again for a check of just the retailers in the 02673 area code, so West Yarmouth, as required by, it's a random selection of retailers each year that is part of what we call the Sign-R Amendment. It's a federal law that requires a certain percentage of retailers to be checked an additional time. and the results of which help to support the disbursement of block funding for substance abuse grants by the federal government. So there are certain, and what they do is they select certain area codes in a random fashion. So we have to check with those, the retailers within those area codes. And this year, 02673 came up, so I went ahead and did that. So it's an improvement from the last time, of course. It's a different youth buyer that I used, but it's still encouraging that nobody was willing to sell to this young man.
Good.
Yeah, and we're about 3/4 of the way through the routine retail inspections that we do each year as well. So I haven't been finding any serious problems within the retail environment in terms of flavored products, blunt wraps, and those sorts of things that usually pop up here and there. So I'm encouraged, and I know that the staff, your staff, has historically done a very good job at keeping the retailers informed as well during their routine inspections of these establishments.
Are you finding overall on the Cape better compliance?
No. Well, it's funny. There's sort of a dichotomy of results between the two youth buyers that I use. One of them is 19 now. He's the fellow that we used last year. He tends to get a lot more sales than the young man that we used this time during the past round. And so, there's no rhyme or reason as to why I use a particular person. It's difficult to have anybody available to you to help with these. So I have two young men. One's 18 and one's 19, as I said. So I used this year the 18-year-old on both occasions in Yarmouth. He tends not to get as many sales as the other one. So the other guy gets sales at about a 30 to 35% clip, whereas the gentleman that we used this year tends to get around 10% sales rate. But again, we had none in Yarmouth, so it is reason to celebrate each year.
Bob, anything new in tobacco control on the state level that this board should be aware of? Any new trends, anything you can educate us about?
Sure. Well, I think, obviously vaping is still a huge concern among young people, and really, and I don't mean just youth, because the people who started vaping when the products were first introduced to the market in 2015, they're all in their 20s now, early 30s. And so we're about to kind of enter a phase where, as you know, in public health, you need longitudinal data to assess results and impact of anything that's out there. So I think we're going to be starting to see some of the long-term effects of the use of these products. And we haven't yet, but overall the rate of vaping in the general population and among youth is down. It's been reduced since COVID, thankfully. But there is another product out there with nicotine pouches, and there are two major brands that people are buying. Especially one of them is really popular. It's called Zyn, Z-Y-N, and these are little pouches of tobacco that the user takes. They come in various strengths. The user just puts it in their mouth, and it like you would with chewing tobacco, but contrary to what chewing tobacco does in causing one to salivate profusely, and this does not cause that physical reaction. So you can park it in your cheek and gum and let it sit there. And so it's a similar concern to vaping in that it's very difficult to detect for young people, especially in school or at home or what have you. Comes in a little round tin, similar to what chewing tobacco does, and some of the bubble gum products that you see out there. They do come in a wide range of flavors, but of course they're not allowed to be sold in any flavor except natural tobacco here in Massachusetts. So I've only found them in flavors in a couple of smoke shops, and so, we dealt with them accordingly, but not in Yarmouth. Of course, you don't have any smoke shops anyway. So, so that's the biggest trend right now. That, I think this stuff has become so popular, it's just shocking. But again, people who smoke and even some people who vape are using these in places where you can't vape, and they're getting their nicotine in whatever way they can. As I always say, dealing with the tobacco industry is like playing a game of whack-a-mole at the carnival. Every time you come up with some sort of a strategy to remedy what their business practices have been, they come back with another creative product that eludes regulation and management over a period of time. So they're always challenging,
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, those are the biggest things that we're dealing with right now at this point in time. So most of the retailers in Yarmouth have been very cooperative and again, mostly compliant, almost completely compliant in the past year with the flavor restrictions and the other, the rest of the components of the regulations and the state law as well.
Okay.
Bob, could I just ask?
Yeah.
This is obviously great, very good news, right?
Yeah, sure.
Regardless of the individual, the youth that's coming in, their age, and I get there's some variable there. Can I just ask, do you or would you recommend that we do any type of notification of the positive news, kind of a positive reinforcement? Does your program send anything out to the retailers?
No, it's not recommended that you do that, because then what happened in the early years of the program, back in the 90s and maybe the early 2000s, there were programs that would do that, and then the retailers, when they were caught violating in some way, they would use that against the board, to try to avoid consequences associated with whatever violation that they committed. So it's not recommended by DPH, and so we don't do it. We've never done it.
Okay.
I guess the comparison, or what they say is, if you drive by a speed trap on the highway, do the state police send you a notice saying thank you for not speeding? No. It's expected that people will follow the law.
Yeah, no, I understand. Positive results become infectious. We're trying to build optimism. So that the board isn't. I get you. I'll take your advice, and I understand. I appreciate those words. But in fact, it's a big strain. They come here and they work hard and difficult. I just didn't know of some positivity and inspiring for them. But I do understand the counterweight to that, as far as yeah.
Right. To your point, Jay, while I make my annual visit or two to each retailer in every town, and there are about 400 of them that I manage, I thank them personally for being compliant. And, both the emphasis is on education and positive reinforcement. I always say, look, I want to help you guys help yourselves and stay out of trouble. Let me help you be compliant. So listen to what I have to say. I appreciate that you haven't had a violation in 3 or 4 years, and there are some that have never had one. So when you have people come in before the board on their second or third violation, and you can say with confidence, we have retailers in this town that have never had a violation in the 20 almost 30-year history of the program.
Right.
So so sometimes the excuses fall flat when you think about it in that way. And, you haven't had, for Yarmouth, really haven't had a consistently non-compliant retailer in some time. I have had the Plymouth Board of Health just last month had to revoke the sales permit under the new regulations, the same one that you have, for repeat violations. You had a 4th violation in 3 years, and they went ahead and revoked their license. And it was, you know, what was even more shocking about that was that it was in a liquor store where in a high-end neighborhood in Plymouth, you know. So, but they were, the board followed the regulation and did what they had to do in, you know, in accordance with the way that the regs are written. So, you know, you don't have anybody in that sort of danger in Yarmouth, so that's good news.
Thanks, Bob. That's helpful. Appreciate it. I hope some of the retailers and certainly the community at large are listening and understanding that your efforts, the board's efforts, are effective and it's delivering results.
They are, and you know, personally, I work. You know, I've been working in this position for, you know, 29 years. So, my approach with the retailers is to be partners with them to help them achieve compliance and to keep illegal tobacco sales down and to help them to stay out of trouble. So I give them a lot of information. I ask them or recommend that they always call the office or call me if you have any questions about, you know, products that you're interested in selling. Now, do things slip through the cracks sometimes? Yes. One of the problems that we do have, you know, across the state is that with the flavor prohibitions that we have now in the state law and in most of the local regulations by this point, is that, you know, one of the things that the retailers are supposed to have is a letter from the manufacturer of every product that each retailer sells, stating that this product is not flavored. All right. So, but there are many instances, and I'm actually going to be developing a draft memo very soon. I'm meeting with several of my colleagues within the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to ask every board to send it out on their letterhead. And so be looking for that, Jay, at some point in the next, you know, 15 to 30 days to send out to the retailers. And it's going to have a list of some of the products that have recently appeared on the market that are indeed flavored, even though the manufacturers claim they're not. So this goes back to your Yarmouth Board of Health Jazz case, and most of you will recall Black and Mild Jazz when Cumberland Farms sued you for it's claiming that their product was not flavored. So there are several other similar products on the market now. And so the point I'm making is that the manufacturers are supplying these letters, and the distributors are you know, delivering products to the retailers and telling them that this stuff is okay to sell. So they're the ones at the end of the line, and when they're caught selling, they get fined. So I think there's a bit of unfairness there, because what they do is they fall back on the letter, you know. So we're doing a lot of education around that, trying to help them to stay out of the situation where they might be fined. And but in some cases, not necessarily in Yarmouth, but in some cases we're finding that the retailers are just, you know, they're not really paying attention, but not too many, and they're getting themselves in trouble. So, but overall, like I said, I've been very pleased with the compliance and the cooperation and the relationship that I've been able to foster with the retailers in Yarmouth.
Great. It's always nice to get a positive report.
Yeah, and it's also, again, that's also reflective of the work that's done by Jay and his staff with the retailers as well.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No?
Nope.
Anybody? No? Okay. Bob, be well.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're up to number 6 here. This is a public hearing on revised poultry regulations. This is requiring a vote tonight. And Larry, just, you're aware, we're not just stacking all these animal cases on this agenda because you're here now, okay? Trust me.
We could attack that dog next.
Okay.
How about with that?
So, we'll get back to 100%
appreciate
septic
it.
system soon, and so, okay.
That's definitely over my head.
Oh, I hope.
You want to stay above the level in the tanks, okay? Stay above. Okay. Jay, is this you?
Well, I would say this, I apologize, I wasn't here for the last meeting. I know there was a lengthy discussion, revisions were made, I'll hand it over to Barry. But that in fact, what you see in front of you in your package was the end result of the edited regulations. If there's continued discussion, if not, there would be a vote and signatures to be able to enact this. This would sit up at the clerk's office for a short holding period, and then it would be enacted and put on the website. So, Barry, was there any?
Great.
Yes, sir. These are the governing policies that we went over last month that you guys all agreed on. I just retyped them up, put them in a nice order, put today's date on them for you guys to take a vote on to move forward with them. So,
Okay.
We've had no comments from the public?
nope. Actually, good comments. We've had probably 2 or 3 applicants for new chicken coops and stuff. People are excited, so. They said thank you for, there was a couple, one of them, a lady just moved down here, and she has her yard was smaller, didn't meet the prior regulations, and so she was excited to see that we were allowing this with the new regulations, so.
No rooster requests?
No, we're, no.
Good question, though. Okay. This requires a vote. If there's no other discussion, we do need a motion, whether to accept the new regulations as written here. So,
Larry.
well, Larry hasn't been here. Do you want to do it?
So I
make
Yeah,
make a
that'd be
motion that
great.
we accept these new regulations
As of today,
as of today.
April 1st, 2024, right?
Pardon?
As of today's date, April 1st,
April
2000.
1st, 2024.
Yeah, perfect.
Second.
Good job, everybody. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Larry, thanks for all the help with this. I mean that sincerely.
For the help.
It's great.
Could I ask that a copy get, so, because I have you all here tonight,
Right.
get signed, passed down the row?
Yeah.
To be signed, if that was possible? If we could just start that, that'd be wonderful.
I just have a pencil.
Thank you so much.
How do we get,
We'll have to go to Charlie to get that done.
thank you.
Thanks for your help with it, Barry.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for all your help. You took the horse by the lead.
Oh, my God. Don't mention horses.
Animal analogies.
Now, if someone's not present,
Yeah.
I'm not
they
sure
don't sign.
I don't think they sign.
No.
You'll look through the regulations, and there will be pages at the end that
People
are
haven't
not
signed.
everyone signed, as long
Right.
as you have enough,
So they didn't vote for it.
So,
Yeah.
so I
Okay,
would consider this done.
thank you. We got a quorum, the people that were here signed. Understood. Thank you for that.
Okay.
I think Charlie was in agreement with it.
Oh, he was, yep.
Okay, we're up to here, number 7, this is a discussion of hoarding/problem properties, and it makes reference to a hoarding task force. So, Jay or Barry?
I'll start, Barry, also. The next couple move through, you've taken a lot of time here, and not that, to go over these, because they're important, but there's nothing in front of you to discuss. I want to bring it to your attention that we have several issues, several properties now identified in Yarmouth that are serious hoarding cases, right? Tragic, the pathology, the psychology behind that, how individuals are living. One of them is actually in court. I just want to bring it to your attention that, in fact, I think in the future, because there is no infrastructure or capacity to address this. These are complex, deep psychological issues that are not solved in writing a letter or delivering a certified, order in any way. Barry, I'll hand it over to him. He was part of a task force, or is part of a task force for the hoarding task force. I think I'd actually ask them at a future date for the hoarding task force that does exist to come in and talk to us. What are some of the best practices? What are some of the things? Actually, one of the things, and Barry can talk about, taking some of that human service money, maybe for dumpsters, and being able, sometimes it's just not having the financial capacity to help individuals get past this. Like I said, these are deep, complex issues that take time, but they are real, and there's health and safety issues, not only for the individuals there, but also whether it's fire, police, trying to access these properties. And we're finding that many times there's animals involved. It can be expensive if the Animal Rescue League or our Department of Natural Resources are taking on, they don't surrender those animals. We're actually paying for those. So there's a number of different things that have to be addressed. I think the board needs to start some regulations or capacity, we'll call it, an infrastructure to how to address it. And it's really not to end hoarding. It's how do we address it and how do we manage it? We have to have infrastructure, like I say. But Barry, maybe you know a little bit more on it.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you. So the Cape Cod Hoarding Task Force, it's a very small task force through the county. Unfortunately, they don't have the means and funds to go in and do clean outs and provide dumpsters and stuff like that. They provide more education to people that are hoarders. There's a really good program called Golden Treasures that they get the hoarders involved with to kind of teach them how to self-manage themselves and how to kind of start the process of cleaning out their homes. To you and I, a 15-year-old Shaw's coupon flyer is trash. To a hoarder, they need it still. That's what they teach them in this Golden Treasures classes. They do that. But one of the things that they do come against is they just don't have the funds to help get these people started to get it cleaned out. A lot of times it's lots of stuff, like multiple dumpsters would be needed. That's why I brought it up to Jay's attention and said maybe with this the grant money, we could set some aside to be able to help these people get the ball started. So it's just we're in the very beginning stages of this to help out. It is becoming. I was surprised coming to Yarmouth how many that we've already had. Like Jay said, there's 4, and that's the ones we know of. We don't know about all the others, and you wouldn't even know the houses just driving by them. They look like my house or your house until you go inside, and it's a sad situation for these. And anything we can do to help these people, it's going to be good for them. So
There is a program at the Yarmouth Senior Center.
Yep.
That runs for weeks at a time on
Yep.
hoarding.
So some of them are like a 16-week program. They meet once a week. It's kind of it's a group workforce to help talk about it, what they can do to help themselves and to kind of see that they actually might have problems. A lot of the situations we have, this is normal to them. This is how they've lived all their life, and they don't think anything's wrong with it. So,
Which is part of the problem, like you said, Jay. It's very complicated. And oftentimes, folks that have these cleanouts, soon enough, they've accumulated stuff all over again.
yeah, one of the cases we have, I was reading back in the notes, like 6 years ago, they got her all cleaned out and everything. She's good to go, and she's back to probably worse than what it was before. So, and you can only write so many letters and do so much stuff. Sometimes they don't want help, but they need it. So,
It's a chronic illness.
So just for a point of information, we'd like to at least start the discussion. And again, as Barry said, these are sometimes generational issues. To have some capacity to address that. This is, the senior center, Mary, that you talk about. Sometimes it's decluttering and things of that nature. This is far beyond holding on to, trophies from high school. These are individuals who can barely navigate through their home. You're in a room and you can't tell it's the kitchen because you can't see the stove or anything. So it's floor to ceiling, difficult, and we worry about life safety issues. And it's time now. We know of several, but there are others out there. We need to have that, and we would then be able to get that up to the senior center and to other fire department, police department, and they're very helpful in that.
How does it come to your attention?
a lot of times from the fire department or the police department, they get called out for an emergency call. They go in, they see this situation, that's when they reach out to us. Or a concerned neighbor, concerned family member. That's how we've gotten a couple of them. It's a lot of times VNA maybe go in to help somebody out. It's out there, and I want to help. I know Jay wants to help. It's kind of a bigger, it's one of those things that just kind of gets pushed underneath the rug, and we don't want to do that anymore. We want to help people, so.
Okay, so that'll be coming forward in the next, but it's on your radar.
Great. Okay, so, number 8, it's a migrant update, Harborside Suites, rather. Okay.
You saw it, I don't know if you saw the Boston Herald today, lead article. Harbor Suites was on there. It was not for public health, but for zoning board of appeals, right? So the 30-day, moving on the bylaw that's in town here. Actually, Yarmouth is, quite frankly, to its credit, the only community that I know in the Commonwealth that is actually addressing where bylaws where a short residential stay, you can't go beyond 30 days. Well, Yarmouth is in the media today.
Real problem with it. That's why that came about.
Right. So
Years ago, yeah.
yeah. Well, the Yarmouth migrant site is before the zoning board of appeals. To the Board of Health, we check, Barry checks it every 3 days. The census, maybe you can just talk a little bit about, just quickly, there really is no status. And the other part too, I would say this, we're not on the radar for the consolidation plan from the state, right? So there is no definite expectation as to when this is. We're told anecdotally that it's going to be consolidated. We don't have a hard and fast information from the state on when that is.
I know the National Guard, since there hasn't been too many issues over there, they've cut down their personnel from 9 down to 5. They're still there throughout the week and helping out, still taking donations. People are still donating clothing and food on a daily basis, which just says a lot for the town of how compassionate people are for them. Again, the National Guard does not have an a departure time for themselves or for the migrants themselves. So, but like I go out there, I monitor it 2 to 3 times a week, just to check and make sure everything's going good. So they're still doing the English classes, teaching the English classes. Some days there's 15 people in there, some days there's 2 or 3, but they're still, the volunteers are going in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at right around 12:30 and helping, volunteering to teach them English and basic skills just to get around from day-to-day life. So,
Great, thank you.
And so the board understands, and the community listening, there are still no, and there has never been any communicable diseases at Harborside Suites. So that's
I
understood.
don't understand the 30-day, I mean, how does that apply when the state has sent these folks to that site, and how does that all?
I know.
Why are they bothering?
Yeah, again, it's a zoning board of appeals, and I think what the building commissioner is putting in place, that the 30-day rule has applied,
Right.
and there is no written emergency from the state. It was a verbal, and this is a test case. Clearly, that no one else in the state has moved this forward. But again, for the board to understand, and those listening at home, this is not a public health issue.
No.
It's a zoning bylaw issue, and that's being resolved. But that just happened last Thursday. This room was filled with proponents and protesters and people on both sides of the issue, all right? That's where it's in the news. It's not in the news for public health. It's not in the news for communicable disease or safety or any of those kind of concerns. This is now for housing and the bylaw about being able, short tendencies and things of that nature. Okay? Just to be clear.
Okay. Same note, infectious diseases. We have a COVID update at this time.
yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, COVID rates have gone down recently. In the month 2/24 to 3/23, Yarmouth was at 6.17% positivity rate with 16 positives. The county was at a 5.7 rate, and the state was at 4.25% positivity rate. The past 2 weeks, date 3/10/24 to 3/23/24, Yarmouth was at 6.01% positivity rate with only 7 positive cases. County was at 5.35%. State was at 3.57% positivity, and then just last week, 3/17/24 to 3/23/24, Yarmouth was at 8.7% positivity rate with 7, I apologize about that, 7 positive rate. County 5.68 positive rate, and the state was at 3.35% positivity rate. Yarmouth is a little bit higher than the county and the state in their rates, but it is coming down greatly from over the holidays, which was expected, so.
Thank you. Anyone? Okay.
Just to pick up while we're on that, Mr. Chairman, you had contacted me, and rightfully so, again, not about COVID, but communicable disease, measles, right? You had asked about measles. You'll see in your...
Getting right on this, that's great.
You understand, and
Stats.
so the concern being is there's been more cases of measles. There's no measles cases in Massachusetts, to be clear, none.
Correct.
But there's been more measles cases in the first 3 months of '24 than there were all of last year in the United States. So again, if you can predict it, you can prevent it, being proactive, and these were the numbers from the school department. The vaccination rates are up in the high 90s. So preventative measures are in place. It's a great question, great answer from the school department, Christian Dwyer. Okay.
Yeah, just for the public, once again, the measles virus is certainly more contagious than any other virus that we have preventative measures for, vaccines for. So, yeah.
Really dangerous for young children.
Yeah.
Right. But to reiterate, I don't want to, it's not setting off an alarm. I'm saying measures are being put into place, and there are no communicable disease, no measles cases in Massachusetts. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Back to COVID for a minute, the CDC is now recommending that people over 65, if the last COVID, updated COVID was more than 4 months, that they get revaccinated. So, or, certainly if there's immune issues, to discuss it with their physician, so.
So in months, just for the people listening right now, so if someone's had a vaccine before what month should they be getting another
The updated vaccine came out in, August, September? I had mine November 23rd, so April 23rd after, I should get a second one. Of the updated.
Yeah,
dose,
for
which
sure.
was the most recent one that came out.
So if you've had one in November, you're saying
Yeah.
it's 4 months?
From then.
Yeah,
Would be April, right.
okay. I'm not sure how much the public knows of this, but, right. Anything else on COVID, anyone? Okay, it's number 10, new and old business. Barry, Jay?
I do. I'd like to say this today. Since 1995, the first week in April is National Public Health Week. You're probably aware. It's to say congratulations, first of all, to all the work that public health officials do, you being the board, protecting the town of Yarmouth. Congratulations to all of you. But the first week in April is designated at the state and the national level, right? Since '95, National Public Health Week. Public Health Week, as you can see today, public health is not achieved individually, it's done collectively. All the issues that you're working on, you're working with collaborative partners, with community, with organizations and departments. It's important that they're recognized. And I guess it's to say that education is a big part of what this board does, and engagement. As you bring the community in together, that's how you improve public health, right? Engagement can actually, and we use the phrase, you vaccinate the community with good information, and that's what you do with each and every meeting. So that you understand that, first of all, congratulations, Public Health Week, but that the board, that the community understands this is, any chance you get to understanding, it brings awareness and to the forefront, public health, because that's, every successful entity is built on a foundation of good health. I don't know if that went off or not. The other one, a few others, the human service contracts are going to be coming due. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I think there's a wonderful suggestion that the applicants will come before you and they'll be giving a presentation. We'll have those queued up for you, depending on how many we get. I don't know if it'll all be at one meeting, but we'll put them in an order that you will have a reasonable number to analyze and give questions.
With a time limited.
Hey, we'll do that.
I gave some history on this to Jay. Hey, yeah.
Okay,
Bring your dinner.
all right, we'll do that. They get a,
No slides, no videos.
understood, yeah.
Cut to the
Okay.
chase.
It's not,
Next.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it's
a
nice when
20
they come in.
a
It
20
really is.
A 20 slide deck, okay, we won't do that. All right, but that's coming. Also, the other one, I'm actually, myself and the housing staff are going to a training with the DA in Barnstable on human trafficking. I don't really have a lot of history or experience I can call upon, experience on that, and so it should be interesting on human trafficking to find out the issues. What do you do about that? How do we address it? How do we identify it? What are the things that should be sending off red flags for our housing inspectors that are they're in properties every single day, the building inspectors. So we hope to come back with some very good information from that. That's tomorrow morning, 8:30 to 1 o'clock. So that should be interesting. And one last thing is just as a note, 1 week from today is the eclipse, okay? The 8th of April. Just as an awareness to the community and understanding, we may be enough south or cloudy enough that you wouldn't look at that directly, but it's a good, to be careful. I was the executive director for the Mass Society of Optometrists for some time, so vision care was on my radar for 3 years. I just bring it to your attention, a week from today, the eclipse, if it's a clear night, if it's a clear day, I should say, and you don't look directly at the eclipse, although, they want to intrigue, there are filters and things you can get to look at the eclipse. Hopefully, it's a clear day. It doesn't happen very often, obviously, but take precautionary measures. So just as an FYI.
Good point, that's great. So we're not running buses up to Buffalo to see this?
No, up to Vermont. I believe Vermont has a good spot. It goes, it's just Texas all the way through the Midwest up into Vermont. You can follow it, but you have some time. If you do want to, and maybe school, classes and things of that nature, just make sure you have protective eyewear. Because it is real. You can damage your eyesight.
Any other new, old business? Does anyone want to meet again in the future? We need to set up a date.
Is this an April Fool's?
Oh, right, okay. And we'll follow that with tax day on the 15th if we're going there, so.
So that's Patriots' Day. Your next meeting is, so that's not an available day.
Okay, let's not do it then. So,
The business is, the town is closed on that day.
yeah,
It'd be May 6th.
okay.
May 6th, the next date.
The first Monday, the third Monday. Now, if the board, I can look for another date if you're not comfortable going that long. Actually, it's a month. I can ask for another day, another Monday. It would be the in between there, if you would like, or.
I don't have anything that's sitting on my agenda for any topics or issues need to be addressed. I don't know, how do people feel about waiting and skipping a second meeting this month?
I'm fine with that unless something comes up and.
Okay. I know on the 6th, it looks like I'm booked with something. I know, it doesn't mean we can't have a meeting. I know Monday the 6th, I'm not available, if that is of any interest. You want to pick out a date in May? Let's see what we can do.
Well, then it would be it's either the 1st or the 3rd. May 6th, you're not available, Mr.
I'm
Chairman?
not, but that doesn't, once again, we still can meet. Or the choice is that or the 20th, or having two meetings. I mean, it may be
Right.
need, I don't know. How do you want to handle that? Mary, you have any thoughts? What do you want to do about it? Scheduling, in other words, for May, we need to have two meetings. If we do, then we do need to meet on the 6th.
Could I explore it? I don't know if it's available, but the 22nd
Of April?
of April, sorry. I don't know if this room is already being used. Is there a conflict? I can at least explore it.
22nd, I'm booked with something, so I know I'm not able to. Once again, if you have three people who can meet, then that's fine. It looks like yeah.
It's Earth Day.
I'm sorry?
Earth Day.
22nd is?
And again, I can't with certainty say that this room is even available, but I could explore it. Otherwise, certainly it is available, and I know, Mr. Chairman, you said you're not, but the May 6th would be the next confirmed date that you would be meeting.
Mary, this would fall upon you to
Right.
handle the meeting, and that's up, assuming whatever you want to do.
Right. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm available.
If there's nothing going on, you can also say, let's not meet, we'll meet once in May. I mean, we can. It depends on what's happening.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to get started bringing in the human service grantees or applicants, if possible.
Absolutely.
And that's now a little bit more than a month, so if we could, on May 6th, I know you're not going to be here, you tell me if
It's fine, fine.
you want to wait.
No, it's really falls upon you to make sure you're, yeah,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, I'm here.
So next meeting will be the 6th.
Unless something were to come up, and I would canvass the board to see if, in fact, we need something.
Okay.
I have a question. The RAC meetings, I'm wondering if what kind of citizen input you're getting about the letters that went out, about the hookups and just in general about what's happening?
Right. So what comes across our desk, what makes the phone ring in our office is realtors selling and asking when would a house be available for, first available, where are they in the queue? Yeah, right?
Yeah, we get probably 2 to 3 of those calls a day, and I forward them to the DPW, to Lori Rizzula, just 'cause she has the answers for those, so.
Okay.
But no really, I know there was a groundbreaking, right? There was some publicity and wonderful. But I can't say that has prompted
Okay.
phone calls or concerns. But it's on people's radar. The problem is the variable on the time. When is this? And we do still get calls. Do we have to do an alternative system? And so that message hasn't been delivered completely, and people are busy. And it isn't an issue until it becomes an issue in your backyard, right? So then that's when they do start to ask questions. But I can't say this. But the questions that come up are really from realtors, properties that are going on the market.
I would say we might be getting some more questions now that work has started in the mornings on Route 28.
People are seeing visibly
That
signs.
started today, so
Right.
we might get some more questions in the future on those.
Well, people have received letters that are on the first part of the implementation. So I didn't know how much that might have engendered calls to you folks. But they're not directed to you.
No.
But,
No, they are.
often
Right.
you're
No,
thought of
yeah.
as the people for the,
Well, let me ask you this, Mary. You're attending, you're a faithful attendee to those. Is it something where the health department should be sitting in on? I know I get the minutes and I see the information. Is it reached to the point where we should weigh in on something there?
no, I mean, I brought you
Right?
the way back, the sewer, regulations. So, no, I mean, the select board are the sewer system.
Commissioners.
Commissioners,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but it's going to, I can't imagine that you wouldn't be getting some calls at some point from people that suddenly, they are now going to be connected and,
Well, this board will be hearing about it because you're actually the appointed authority on the connection. That has been delegated to this board.
Right.
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 So that will get busy. Huh?
No comment.
This board will be getting busy about that.
Well, the next town meeting, there's going to be 2 warrants. On the warrant, there'll be 2 articles, one on the betterment and one on, what was the other one? Sorry, financing. So it's, it comes up, almost every town meeting, there's something that comes up about it. But I go to the town meeting, so I know a small percentage of the population is there, but, it is being kept out there. And there's a wonderful website for information on what's going on. They've really done a good job. putting that together and keeping it up, so.
I think town administration is to be commended, DPW, and certainly town administrator, assistant town administrator, the selectmen have been, they've all done, and the RAC group pushing, leaning forward on this. Complicated, a lot of, I don't think the state or DEP has been completely cooperative at that level. It's been difficult, but.
Yeah, we've come up with some things that were not anticipated and
Right.
hadn't been brought up before.
That's
so.
big projects, those things do come up, right? But there's some good news that happened with the groundbreaking, and I think there's a.
And that work will not be going on between Memorial Day and Labor Day, so it will not affect summer visitors.
Well, but it can go on, like the pumping station, just not on 28.
Right.
Right, so, but there's some work that
Right.
could go on,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Right.
Yep.
So, yeah, but that, rightfully so. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
You want to go?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.